Hey cats, it's Ed, losing my voice bud here. Don't worry, it's just literally me losing my voice. I feel great otherwise. Nothing sinister. Today a video about how I was wrong about the ADIDAS TAKUMI SEN 8. Sort of. Hey cats, thanks for joining me back here on the channel, it's always appreciated.
Today I've enabled my Barry White style voice setting.
A quick update for you, I've got to 50 miles in the TAKUMI SEN 8 and I feel that perhaps I was wrong about the shoe in my initial review. A little bit. Before we get into the review, if you haven't done so yet, please hit the subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications. Help us get to 25,000 subscribers. We're almost there. Also, you can give this video a thumbs up like and share it with your running buddies. It really helps out. Thanking you, ta. As someone who has an open mind, I'm always quick to admit if I'm wrong about something. In fact, I quite like it being proved wrong. Sometimes my opinions change about a piece of kit or a shoe over time, and that certainly is the case with the TAKUMI SEN 8. Initially I wasn't really bowled over by the shoe at all on first runs, but I think my opinions changed a little bit on it over this time. I still do think it's overpriced at the retail cost of 170 Earth credits here in the UK. You know, £10 less expensive than the Adios Pro 2. You know, this has got to be some shoe to really make it worth the money. But I am warming up to it now after a few miles, certainly in a similar vein to the Boston 10, though for different reasons. So 50 miles or 80 kilometers roughly, and I got to be honest, I'm really liking the shoe above 7 minutes 30 per mile pace. Now, I'm no elite runner or anything. A few people have messaged me with some odd views about the shoe, saying you've got to run like sub 6 minute per mile pace to get anything from it. I think that's a bit ridiculous really. You can run at any pace in any shoe, it might not feel great at that pace, but I certainly don't think you need to run or be able to run quite that fast to get something out of this one. Up towards my 5k pace, that's about 6 minutes per mile, it's feeling really nice. But I'm not going to really spend that much time in this shoe at that pace. Certainly in my training, predominantly geared up towards half marathon, or at least a 1 hour 30 half marathon pace. It's not really something I'm going to do all that often. I mean, there's not really even any park runs where you can run at that pace and not crash into somebody or some part of the park run route. Certainly a brilliant shoe for me though, for fartlek or interval sessions. It's just got that cushion there for the recovery sections of some sort of interval session that you might do. And for fartleks it's great because you can really blast it or pull back the pace and it still feels reasonable underfoot. There's certain shoes that just don't feel like that. I think the Magic Speed is probably one of those. It feels great at pace, not so much when you slow down. After 50 or so miles, the midsole now is even more flexible. Blimey, it really is actually, just looking at it on screen. I'm still not set on those plasticky rods that we've got here in the TAKUMI SEN 8. I don't think they do an awful lot, and probably a torsion system would have done the trick. It's certainly nice and smooth if I move up into a sort of tempo speed range, and on concrete and road it sings nicely like a bird. I think the secret about this shoe is actually hidden with that very thin plate that's underneath the heel here in the TAKUMI SEN 8. It stabilizes the shoe enough that you can get quite a high knee drive actually, and as you come down it's a nice stable feeling. It doesn't feel as if your back of your foot's flopping everywhere. You don't have that fear of it being too highly compressive as you do in some other super shoes. I mean, if we're calling this one a super shoe, what makes a super shoe? Does it have to have a carbon element? Does it have to have some sort of ridiculously squashy foam? Maybe it isn't a super shoe. I did feel that overly compressive feeling in the heel in something like the RC Elite 2, and also the Vaporfly 4% Flyknit. I still love that shoe. I think over time that people have become a little bit desensitized to the amazing feeling you get from some of those shoes, and I think the squash that we get from those midsole foams is actually changing the way we run. I think that's perhaps not for the best. I know a lot of people use these shoes all the time and I don't think it's a particularly good idea. This one though, on the other hand, doesn't have all those other elements and I don't feel it to be anywhere near as compressive in the heel as some of those other shoes. The SEN 8 almost demands that there's a mid to forefoot strike, and the Magic Speed as well for that matter feels very much like this shoe from that aspect. I think that's the real secret of the shoe there. It does get you to increase that cadence. I'm going to look to increase that even further with this shoe by tinkering a little bit with the insole. You guys will remember that I wasn't dead set on the drop of this shoe when I first reviewed it. That heel-to-toe drop just doesn't feel quite as aggressive enough as I'd want for a race shoe. Well, I'm going to experiment by chopping out the mid to forefoot section of the insole. Just see if that gives me a little bit of an extra drop. I'm trying to imagine what this shoe would be like if you had perhaps a more traditional, not sure that's the right word, but a more common or typical plate in it as opposed to those energy rods. I just find the rods here a bit more like Poundland AA batteries. You know, the zinc carbon ones. I do think that people will perhaps go one way or the other when the Street Fly comes out. I think these two shoes are going to be quite similar. I would be confident enough now to use this in a 5 or 10k race. Stability certainly not an issue here, and it feels quite assured now the shoe's broken in somewhat. And the outsole grip actually has been superb, even on some frosty, chilly morning paths. One big boon of this shoe is the weight. As quite a slight gentleman, quite a slim build I suppose, I don't weigh all that much. And some of the heavier shoes really do feel like lead weights on my feet. Not this one though, the Sen 8 feels really light and nimble. I think if you're racing, you always care about the extra ballast, don't you? You don't want lots of things hanging off you. I don't like running with extra stuff that I don't need, and that goes for midsole foam and rubber and upper as well. I think on low range distances this one will really come in handy. Less weight here, and I found that it really helped me to speed up my cadence, which actually improves my efficiency a great deal. And I think it will be beneficial in terms of that high level performance too. When you're starting to go towards your anaerobic sort of level, I think it could help with endurance. You're just not carrying around extra weight. Though that does lead me to the question of whether the Sen 8 offers anything that the Vaporfly Next Percent 2 doesn't offer. Or the Metaspeed Sky as well from ASICS. Those shoes are equally as light as this one, but with far more aggressive drops and different plate placements as well, albeit at a much higher price than the Adidas shoe. Many viewers suggest that they do enjoy the Sen 8 at higher pace, but they wouldn't select it over the Next Percent 2 in a race situation. That is odd to hear, I suppose, especially when you consider that the Vaporfly Next Percent 2 is aimed at half or full marathon distance. This one's obviously very much aimed at a shorter distance, 5 to 10k. I am very excited about future iterations of the Takumi Sen line, perhaps with a little less stack in the forefoot area, giving us that more aggressive drop. That'll be a little bit more similar to the Takumi Sen 6 or 7, and I guess it will hark back to the Adios 4 and 5. Those models were very refined running shoes, exceptional details there, and some of the outsole actually reminds me of that Adios 4. Very thin, but very grippy. But they were a much more affordable price. I can remember picking up the Adios 4 for about 110 Earth credits. That's quite a big difference between that and the Sen 8. And sadly that brings me back full circle to the price really. 170 Earth credits here in the UK is big money. And none of those codes work anymore, cats. A lovely shoe, but yes, shoddy laces. It certainly got more enjoyable for me over time the more and more miles I've put into it. But I think at this price it's certainly not a must-have. I can't recommend that you go out and get it over something else that's maybe just a little bit more expensive. Pairs are plentiful over at the Adidas website right now in both colourways. Got pretty much every single size actually available right now. That's probably down to its pre-Christmas release, kind of got a bit forgotten about maybe. That higher retail cost, and of course the more niche use case. There's only a few scenarios perhaps where you would utilise this shoe and get some considerable benefits. So was I wrong about the Takumi Sen 8? Well, yes, a little bit. I am enjoying it at higher paces now. The shoe does seem to have broken in somewhat. That midsole foam's freed up and it does feel all the better for it. It's grown on me. It really does excel in quite a narrow use case though, for a select few scenarios. What say you, good people? Have you been enjoying the Takumi Sen 8 from Adidas? If you picked it up, or you're thinking of picking it up, let me know down in those comments. A quick musical interlude for you. We're rewinding back to 1997, which was officially the greatest year ever. Well, it's pretty good for musical releases anyway. I seem to have loads from then. An absolutely corking album from Supergrass, In It For The Money. There's some great tracks on here, one of which, Richard III, almost sounds like a better version of the Foo Fighters. Slightly more sort of English, British tinge to it all. You've got some awesome synths in there later on as well. Nice big chunky guitars and a driving sound, really good running track. Sun Hits the Sky is in a similar vein, and once you've used up all your energy you can kick back and listen to the wonderful Late in the Day. Supergrass had an awesome vibe. I was lucky enough to see them, I think, about 2 or 3 times live, and they always sounded great. Go and check it out, guys. A wonderful album from 1997, In It for the Money by Supergrass. I've managed to whisper my way through the script and completed the video. I'm very proud of myself now. I do appreciate you tuning in, guys. We're rapidly getting towards 25,000 subscribers. Help us out if you haven't subscribed by hitting that button below, but also the bell for notifications of when I launch those new videos for you. You can help us out in terms of the YouTube algorithm too, by giving this video a thumbs up like and also sharing it with your running buddies. My name's EDDBUD, and I'll be seeing you